Questions surrounding the attack. Sue Gordon is here, former Principal Deputy Director of National Intelligence. Good morning to you. I'll just ask you the basic open-ended question, which was, where do you think this all goes from here?
It gets worse, and it's worse for a long time. The horrific nature of the attack, how fraught the relationships are, how hard it's going to be to have to work to keep the other factions in place. This is going to be long, likely bloody, and create some really difficult, nuanced decision-making for an Israeli government that isn't in its strongest footing. Even though the kind of war effort unifies people, as days wear on, boy, the adrenaline wears off, and then you start asking questions. So this is going to be long and tough. And
so when you say long, are you talking about weeks, months, a year, more than that? What does this look like? And both in terms of from an intelligence perspective or from a strategic perspective, how do you imagine Israel goes about this? And then, by the way, on the other side, how do you imagine Hamas retaliates if they are going to retaliate to what is, let's be very clear, something that started with Hamas, and this is a retaliation for that?
It is. So I don't want to put a bound on it. It changes the region. It is forcing yet again dealing with the Israeli-Palestine issue that we keeps on trying to be put in some sort of stasis. It's going to be bloody. I will tell you, there will be ripple effects, certainly for years, that we just can't predict yet what comes and what rises out of this. Norm made a great point about ISIS area, and I think if you think to that, all the unintended and unexpected events that arose as that fight was waging. So I wouldn't put a bound on it, but I will tell you it's a long time, and it has changed a lot of equations in the region.
So we don't think of Iran as the swing producer of oil anymore, but I mean it matters what's happening there. That's one thing that I worry about. I worry about our SPR. It's not full. I don't know how we deal with that. And then my biggest fear is how close Iran is to being nuclear capable. And that, when you see something like this, you realize there's no sanity there. There's no governor. Anything is possible in Iran, is it not?
Yeah, I think all those concerns are real. Probably the oil concern is probably not our alligator closest to the boat, given all the efforts going on to try and keep some semblance of stability and keep others from joining into this fray. So probably that one might have a slight perturbation, but I don't think that's our biggest worry. Certainly, Iran is an opportunistic predator, and I think that you always worry about what it might do. And your last point, Joe, I think is excellent, and that the unpredictability of it. And we haven't talked about the failure aspect of this, because that's looking a bit in the rearview mirror, and there'll be time for that. But I think there's a little bit of remembering that the interests of these parties are not the same as the interests of other nation states, and getting comfortable that you understand their next move is probably not a good strategy and may have kind of contributed to what we see in terms of Israel not anticipating this event.
Sue, how do you think that this impacts the relationship between, or a potential deal between, Israel and Saudi? And one of the reasons I ask is, given this clear failure of intelligence, one of the reasons I think arguably the Saudis were interested potentially in a deal is, they had a particular view. I think the world had a particular view of the intelligence services in Israel, and therefore also what Israel will have to do in the next coming weeks or months to try to prove to the world and maybe to Saudi and others that intelligence is as good as they have said it is.
Yeah, Israel's job of rebuilding trust it is as monumental as any here. I don't think we need to throw in the towel on the efforts going on in the region with Saudi and UAE. There's some goodness behind those activities for all the parties. So I think it makes it harder today than it did, but I don't think we have to throw in the towel on those. But again, how Israel conducts the war, the calculations it makes, there aren't any good military targets for them to hit. So there is a lot of concern about, as the days and weeks and months carry on, it's tough.